Alright, welcome. This is Chapter 10 Study Guide, so we're just going to go through this pretty quickly. So first one is we have a parallelogram, which my area is base times height. My base in this first one is 24, my height is 6, so I'm going to do 24 times 6. 24 times 6 is going to give me 144 square centimeters. On my second one, well, I'm given this height and it's outside of the parallelogram. So remember, I need to remember that, well, when these come together and make a perpendicular angle, this is always going to be my height still, but my base is going to be this slanted side that comes to be a 90 degree. So this is my base. So again, it's base times height still. So 15 times 6. So my area for this is going to be 90 square millimeters. Okay, next one says we need to solve for h. Well, we can't hopefully find the area of this first. It's a parallelogram, so it's going to be base times height. Area equals base times height. And what we see, we have the base is 12. So my base is 12 and my height is 4. So my area for this parallelogram is going to be 48 square units. Well, that's not what it was asking me though. I wanted to know, what is this h? Well, I know I can find, if this side is 6, then this side also has to be 6. And these come together to make a 90 degree angle. Well, I know that I can find the area if this 6 is going to be my base. And just like that last problem that we did, if my base is 6 and I'm trying to figure out what h is, well, what is the area? We just found the area right there. So we know the area has to be 48. So now we just need to get 6 to be all by itself. Divide both sides by 6, and h is going to give me 8. Okay, my next one, we have a trapezoid. The formula is going to be height times base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2. So we just got to remember that how do we know what the bases are? They're always the sides that are parallel to each other. So both of these sides are parallel. So to find the area would just be 8 plus 3. My height is always that one that creates a 90 degree angle, times 5 divided by 2, which is going to be 5 times 11 divided by 2, which means my area for this is going to be 27.5 square meters. Next one, again, a trapezoid. Well, we got to find the base and the height. Well, if this is 30, this top one here has to be 30. So far, we found one base. We know that one base is 30. Well, what is this other base going to be right here? Well, I need to find this line. That's going to be my height. So if I'm thinking this is a 30, 60, 90 degree triangle, if I have the 90 degrees and I want to find this 30 degrees, I divide by 2. This is going to be 6. Well, look, we just found that is the base right there. 30 and 6 means that the other base is going to be 36. And then to go from 30 degrees to 60 degrees, we times it by rad 3, so we get 6 rad 3. 6 rad 3. So now we're just going to add these together. This is going to give me 66 times 6 rad 3 over 2. 66 times 6 is 396. Rad 396, rad 3 over 2, and then 396 divided by 2 is going to give me 198 rad 3 square inches. Okay. Alright, so when it comes to rhombus, two things are super important to remember. First is that when the angles, the diagonals come, they bisect each other, which means they cut each other in half, and then they also create 90 degree angles. So if we are looking at this first one, we know that each of these angles are 90 degrees. Okay, and so if this is 60 degrees and this is 60 degrees, which means that this one up here has to be 30 degrees. So we just created a 30, 60, 90 degree triangle. So if I'm going from 90 and I want to find out what this length is to 30, I cut that in half, and that is going to be 4.5. But I got to remember that this 4.5 is only half of it. we still have this other 4.5. So one of my diagonals, that full diagonal, is going to be 9. So we have one diagonal. Now we got to find the other diagonal. So if I'm looking at the same triangle, if this is 30 degrees, I'm going from 30 to 60, well, this is going to be 4.5 rad 3. From 30 to 60. And again, that's only half of it, so I times that by 2, and this is going to be 9 rad 3. So you can have it as, when we simplify this 9 times 9, you can put either two things, 81 rad 3 over 2, because that's as simplified as it can get, or if you wanted to write it as a decimal, we could also do 40.5 rad 3 square feet. Either of these would be acceptable if we are keeping it as a radical. Second thing is, again, these are 90 degrees. If this is 3, then this has to be 3, so one of my diagonals is 6. And so we got to remember, well, here's a 45, 45, 90 degree triangle. If this is 3 and it's a side, then this other side has to be 3. And if it cuts it in half, then this other side also has to be 3. So we know that the other side is going to be 6 as well. So I'm going to get 36 divided by 2, which is going to give me 18 square meters. Okay, last one for the rhombus is, again, this is going to be 90 degrees. This is going to be 60. If this is 12, and then this has to be 12, which means that one of my diagonals is 24. And if this is 12, and I'm going from 30 to 60, well, this is going to be 12 rad 3, which means that this is 12 rad 3, which means that the other diagonal is going to be 24 rad 3, and I'm going to divide this by 2. So 24 times 24, and then divided by 2 is going to give me 198 rad 3 square feet for my area. Alright, so this one is, it says keep it as an integer, find the area. Alright, so remember, we have to always find out what my all these angles added together are always going to equal 360. 4 sides divided by 4, which means that each degree is 90 degrees. And we have this triangle, we cut in half, so this is going to be 45. So when I draw my triangle right here, I have 90 degrees, 45, and we were told that this is 12. So if that is 12, then I am, to find this side, I divide by rad 2. So if I divide by rad 2, or I use my shortcut of divide by 2, which is going to be 6, times rad 2 is going to give me 6 rad 2. And so that is my side. So this side right here we said is 6 rad 2. And then this is also going to be 6 rad 2. So my apothem is going to be 6 rad 2. So remember, it's apothem times perimeter. So apothem is 6 rad 2. Well, I got to find the perimeter. Well, if this is 6 rad 2, this whole side is going to be 6 rad 2. So one of my sides is going to be 12 rad 2. And remember, I got to times this by how many sides. There are 4 sides. So my perimeter is going to be 48 rad 2. So I do 6 times 8. 6 times 48 is going to give me 288. Rad 2 times rad 2 is rad 4, which just simplifies to 2. So 228 times 2 is going to give me 576. And then when I divide that by 2, I'm just going to get this 288, and we're talking about inches, square inches. Okay. All these next problems, it's just the same process every single time. It just depends on what type of triangle at the very end you're going to get. So again, we're going to cut these all in half. This time, we were given the apothem, so it makes it easy for us. So all we got to do is find one of the sides. So if I have 360 degrees, and there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different sides, which means that each degree is 60. which means that this is going to be 30 degrees. So a lot of times it's easier if we draw a triangle and we were told that this is 2 rad 3, this is 30 degrees, this is 60 degrees, and we want to find this, my side. So to go from, we always want to go to my 30, to go from 60 to 30, I'm going to divide by rad 3, so this is going to give me 2. So if this side is 2, remember I got to get that full side, so one whole side is going to be 4. And remember that there are 6 different sides, so my perimeter is going to be 24. So I have perimeter times apothem, so it's my apothem times the perimeter divided by 2. So 24 times 2 is 48 rad 3. 48 rad 3 divided by 2 is going to give me 24 rad 3 square centimeters. That's my final answer. Alright, same thing. Takes us a little while for these problems, but we should be able to get it. These are both triangles. This one made it easy. It told me my apothem was 6. So I just got to find the perimeter. And so I know that there are 360 degrees. There are 3 different sides, so each of these are going to equal 120 degrees. We cut in half with our apothem, which means that this is going to be 60 degrees. So we just created a 60, 90, 30 degree triangle. We were told this is 6, so to go from 6 to this side, from 30 to 60, we would times it by rad 3. So this is 6 rad 3, but that's only half the side. So the other side put together is going to be 12 rad 3. It's 12. And then there are 3 different sides. So my perimeter is going to be 36 rad 3 over 2. So I take 36 times 6. It's going to give me 216 rad 3 divided by 2. So my final answer is 108 rad 3 square meters. Okay. My next one that I have right here is, again, this one just gave me a radius, so kind of need to find the apothem and the perimeter. So let's do some blue. So same process, 360, just like what we just did, 3, which means that each of these are 120. And again, let's just say that we cut this one right here in half, which means that this is now going to be 60 degrees. Okay, and we just created a right triangle, and we were told that each of these radius that we have right here is going to be, so each of these are going to be 8. This is going to be 90, and when we cut this out, this is going to be 60, which means this has to be 30. So if we go from 90 to 30, we cut that in half, so it's going to be 4. So my apothem is 4. So we just need to find the perimeter next. And then if that's 4, then this has to be 4 rad 3. But remember, that's only half of it. So one of my sides is going to be 8 rad 3. And remember that there are 3 different sides. So my perimeter is 24 rad 3. 24 rad 3 over 2. So I do 24 times 4 is 96 rad 3. 96 rad 3 over 2 is going to give me 48 rad 3 square inches. Okay? Alright, coming along, we have, next one is find the area. So remember, perimeter and scale factor are A over B, and my area is going to be A squared over B squared. So to try and find the area, well, let's say I take the bigger one over the smaller one, so this would be, my scale factor would be 30 over 10, or if I simplify, this would be 3 over 1. And we know the area of the larger one is going to be 100 meters. So it means I have to square this. To go from perimeter to area, I have to square it. So I'm going to get 9 over 1 equals, and the area of the larger one, remember we put the larger one on top, on the first one. So if the area of the larger one is 100, well, what is the smaller one going to be? That's x. So I cross multiply. This is going to give me 9x equals 100. 100 divided by 9 is going to give me, so round to the nearest number, so x is going to equal 11. Same process for this. I'm going to do 10 over 25. And let's just simplify this. So that's going to be a 5 can go on the top and bottom. It's going to be 2/5. And again, we want to find area. So I have to square both of these. So I'm going to get 4/5. So I have 4 over 5 is going to equal, and the area of the larger ones. Remember, I put the smaller one on top. So the larger one is on the bottom. And then I'm just going to cross multiply. I'm going to get 5x equals 4 times 500 is 2,000. 2,000 divided by 5 is going to equal 400. So I have 400. And then again, we found the area of the other one, so it's going to be meters squared. So this would be centimeters squared. Okay. Alright, next one wants me to find the perimeter. Remember, if I'm given the area, which is a squared over b squared, we need to get to the perimeter ratio, which is just going to be a over b. So if we were given two figures, and if one is going to be 162 over 50, well, we can always simplify this before we square this. So we think, like, what can go into both these numbers? We know a 2 at least can go into both, right? So a 2 is going to give me 81, and 50 divided by 2 is going to give me 25. And so all I'm going to do now to go from, this is still my area, so this is squared, to go from a square to just an a over b, I have to square root top and bottom. So my answer is going to be 9 over 5. For these, it's just the same process that we've been doing. The area of this right here, if I'm looking at this triangle, we know looking at this, the area of this is going to be 160. So if we are trying to find out what x and y are, if I'm looking and if I am doing this right here, well, we know that the area of this first one, it tells me this is 40, right? So let's find x first. So I'm going to have 8 over x is going to equal 160 over 40. But I got to remember this 8 over x is like my scale ratio. In order for it to all be in the same things, as far as this is a squared over b squared, and I want them all to be a over b, well, I need to square root both of these. So let's think. Well, let's simplify this ratio. This is just going to be 16 over 4, and then I want to square root both of this, so this is going to be 8 over x equals 4 over 2. So I cross multiply. This is going to give me 4x equals 16, which means that x is going to equal 4. And then if I know that if x is 4 that we have right here, well, I can just set up a ratio. So I can do 4 over 8 equals, so the small one over the big one equals y over 20. And these are all a over b, so I don't need to change anything. So I'm going to get 8y is going to equal 80, and which means that y is going to equal 10. Cool. And then we're just doing the exact same thing for this one, just instead of the area being 40, it is now 40.1. So let's do the same thing that we just did. We said this is going to be 160. We said this is going to be 44.1. And so let's put this as a fraction. Let's do 44.1 over 160. Alright, well, I don't like a decimal in my fraction, so I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 10. So this is going to give me 441 over 1,600. Okay, and then I'm going to think, well, I could try and simplify it, but let's just see if 441 is a perfect square root. It is. So remember, this is my a squared b squared, and I just want to be as a regular ratio, so I'm solve for x. So to get it as a regular a over b, I'm going to square root top and bottom. So this is going to be 21 over, and then if I take the square root of 1600, that's going to be 21 over 40. So that is my a over b, and so we're going to set this equal to, and we put the small over big, so if I do x over 8, this is going to give me 40x equals 8 times 21 is 168. 168 divided by 40 means that x is going to equal 4.2. And if x is 4.2, we're going to have, let's do 4.2 over 8 is going to equal y over 20. So I cross multiply. 4.2 times 20 is 84 equals 8y. 84 divided by 8 is going to give me y is going to equal 10.5. Okay, so there are my two answers for those. Alright, last two that we have right here. Okay, we are, same thing. Process, all these problems that we look like, it's the same thing. So we are going to find out what the central angle is. Well, this thing, perimeter. If each side is 8, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, my perimeter is going to be 64. So all I got to find is the apothem. So I could draw out each of these ones if I wanted to, and I have 360, and if there are 8 different sides, means that each of these are going to be 45. Okay. Well, we know that what we're wanting to do though is find the apothem. So let's make the red. If we're taking the 45 and we're cutting it in half, 45 divided by 2 is going to give me 22.5. And if we take, not only cuts the angle in half, but it cuts the side in half, so that's going to be 4. So let's draw a triangle to see more clearly what this looks like. Apothem makes a right angle. It cut the side to be 4, and it cut the angle to be 22.5, and we are trying to find x. So I see I have a right triangle. What can I use to find the right triangle? Well, I have to use my SOHCAHTOA. So let's write our SOHCAHTOA. It's a lot easier if we just see it right here. And so I have this. Here's my opposite. Here's my adjacent. So I'm going to do tangent 22.5 is going to equal, my opposite is 4, my adjacent is x. So I'm going to times 4 to both sides. 4 tan 22.5 equals, I'm sorry, I should have times x to both sides. Sorry about that. Times x to both sides. So I times x to both sides because I want to get it out of the denominator. And so this is going to equal x equals tan 22.5 equals 4. And then divide by tan 22.5 to both sides. 4 divided by tan 22.5 is going to equal 9.657. And again, we want to make sure the more decimals we have right here, the more precise my answer is going to be. 6569, let's say that. So we are going to multiply that by 64, my perimeter, and then divide it by 2. And so my area is going to equal, for this whole thing, 309, round to the nearest 10th, 0.0 square meters. Boom. Got it. Alright, last one that we have right here, and it's kind of a doozy. We need to, in this one, it doesn't give me a side, and it doesn't give me an apothem, so we got to find both of those. Okay. Well, again, find the central angle. So we know that all these angles, all the radii, they're all going to equal 360. So if there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sides, we take 360 and we divide it by 5, which means that each of these are going to be 72. Take the 72, we cut in half, means that this is going to be 36. So we have a triangle that we have right here. Here's a right triangle. This is 36, and we were told that the radius was 10. So let's find the apothem first. So if I'm looking, I have my SOHCAHTOA. I can write it out again. SOHCAHTOA. Okay. So we have right here, if I have adjacent and hypotenuse, I'm using cosine. So I'm going to do cosine 36 equals adjacent x over 10. Multiply both sides by 10. And I'm putting this 10 cosine 36, which means that my apothem, and where do I put it? Let's put it in blue. Let's put it over here. My apothem is 8.09. And that's what I got here. X equals 8.09, just so you know what I got. So that's that. We need to figure out, well, what is this going to be? That's my perimeter. I also need to know that. So if I'm solving for y, I am going to use, this is going to be opposite over hypotenuse. So this time, instead of cosine, so make sure you guys have this, we're going to use sine this time. So we're going to say sine of 36 is going to equal, the opposite is y, hypotenuse is 10, times 10 to both sides. We're going to get y is going to equal 10 sine 36 is going to equal 5.8778. Say that. Okay, but remember, this is only half the side. So we need to take this number and we need to double it. So times it by 2 to equal 1 full side, which is about 11.7558. Okay, and again, that's this side. So to find the perimeter, well, we need to multiply this by how many different sides there are. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sides. So we take this number and multiply it by 5, and we are going to get 58.779. So that is my perimeter, which is 58.779. So I take that, I multiply it by 8.09, and then remember, once I get that, I have to also divide it by 2. So I take that and I divide it by 2, and my final answer, my area finally is going to be 237, round to nearest tenth, 0.8, and squared inches. Perfect. Thanks for watching. We'll review this more in class. See you guys soon.